You're listening to the Synergy Leadership Podcast, a discussion with engaging, empowering, and enlightening leaders about the greatest competitive advantage in business and entrepreneurship that often goes unrecognized: a team's energy. Here's your host, the woman who puts the energy in synergy, Karen R. Jenkins.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Synergy Leadership Podcast. In our last episode, I shared tips on how to stay grounded, focused, and effective when the pressure hits its peak, especially around the holiday season. When we spoke last time, I shared with you why the end of year feels heavier than any other season, how urgency inflation derails decision-making and drains leaders. I also shared the power of intentionally managing the energy that you bring into the room. One of the biggest components I got the best feedback on was a simple 3-minute synergy reset that you can use anywhere, anytime. And you had a homework assignment, the year-end leadership audit, to help you release what no longer serves you and prepare for a stronger 2026. We're going deeper today because understanding energy isn't enough. Awareness alone doesn't change behavior. The real leadership skill, the one most people were never taught, is self-mastery. Self-mastery is not about control. It's not about being calm at the time, and it's definitely not about pretending that things are not affecting you. Self-mastery is the ability to notice what's happening within you, to regulate your energy and choose how you respond, especially under pressure. And that's one skill that changes everything. I watched a clip from Oprah Winfrey's, one of the interviews that she had done, and she stated that her wealth and abundance came from her energy, or should I say her energetic energy, and what she brought. And she made the statement that the energy that you put out comes back to you. So she's telling you the what. She's telling you what impacted her life. She's telling you the things that she found to be the most impactful in her life. And there are other thought leaders out there that will tell you the same thing. But when the rubber meets the road, telling you is one thing, but telling you or showing you how to do it is something different. And that's where we're coming in to have some deep conversations today on this Synergy Leadership Podcast called the Synergy Reset: Self-Mastery Under Pressure. So let's jump right in. And we're going to talk a little bit about leadership. But when I say leadership, I'm talking about self-leadership. If you don't necessarily have anyone that you're leading on your job, it could be self-leadership or leadership as it pertains to your family and your home setting. But even though you may not have anybody reporting directly to you, does not mean that you're not a leader. We all are leaders in our own right, whether it's leading ourselves, leading our family, leading a team, leading at church, leading someone. So all of the information, although I may reference leadership, I'm not talking specifically about corporate or government or state and local. I'm also talking about life in general, because these tips that I'm going to share are applicable across all the lines. So why does leadership break down under pressure? Most leadership challenges don't begin with the strategy. They begin with the stress. Think about the moment when leadership feels the hardest. That tense meeting that you were in, a difficult email that you received, or some news that you have to share, a conversation that doesn't really go as you had planned, something that happened at home that might have triggered you. In those moments, your nervous system activates before your logic does. And I'm going to say that again. Your nervous system activates before your logic does. That's why capable leaders sometimes say things that they later regret. They shut down instead of engaging. They carry frustration from one situation into the next. Does that sound familiar to you? This isn't a character flaw, it's actually physiology. When stress rises, our nervous system moves into fight or flight or freeze. You've all heard that before. Decision making narrows, perspectives shrink, and reaction replaces intention. And that's natural. The challenge is that as humans back in the day, we had fight or flight because it was life threatening when the bear was chasing us or the Tyrannosaurus was after us, and we were forced to go into fight or flight. And now it's more of a psychological fight or flight because just our common thoughts can take us there. Self mastery begins with understanding this without any judgment. So let's go into what I'm calling the reset. How choice returns. Here's the good news. The nervous system can be regulated in real time. Sometimes the reset is simple. It's just as simple as a pause, taking that 1 second to just give yourself a minute, separating yourself from the action and what your response might be before you have one. So pausing, take 2 intentional breaths. Deep down from the diaphragm. And ask yourself, what does my nervous system need right now? That pause is not weakness. It's actually leadership. Self-mastery isn't about eliminating stress because we all have it. It's about interrupting the reaction long enough to choose differently. Sometimes we're reacting instead of responding, and we'll get into that shortly. One of the things that impacts us is what I call energy leaks. And then we spend what I call emotional currency on those energy leaks. And what do I mean by that? So most leaders don't burn out from one big event. They burn out over energy leaks, things that are negatively impacting them. Energy leaks, they're quiet. They're things like replaying a negative conversation in your head, worrying about what is about to happen, worrying about, oh my gosh, I got to go to this meeting or this thing is going to happen. And we talked about it in our last episode that we worry about these things and 90% of them actually never occur. Holding on to emotions long after the moment has passed. Some of us are carrying stuff from childhood. There's absolutely nothing we can do with those things. So the issue is, why are we carrying them? Because as we carry them, they're still continuing to impact us. Not a judgment, just an observation. In those cases, that's your energy leak. Then we have what I call energy boosters. Energy boosters are those things that restore clarity and presence. They are things that give us that oomph, that make us feel good, that inspire us, that kind of put us in the zone. And then they're energy drainers. Now, the drainers are real, and you probably see those immediately. The leaks are kind of sneaky because they kind of happen and you don't really realize it. But the energy drainers are things like conflict, this sense of urgency, unsolved tension. The challenge is, as I shared, leaks are the most dangerous because those are the things that go unnoticed. You will notice or know when you're around a booster. You will know and notice when you're around a drainer. But the leak, that's that little silent little hiss that's kind of draining your energy away. And this is where I call, or should I say, your emotional currency matters. As we said, 90% of what we worry about never really happens. But the stress that we put ourselves through, the stress that we're experiencing is very real. Our cortisol elevations in our body is very real. And the resulting exhaustion that we feel is very real. So the self-mastery teaches you to ask yourself, I'm expending what I call emotional currency on these things. You have to ask yourself, is this specific thing worth my energy? Is it worth my emotion? Especially if I just shared that 90% of it never occurs. So the next time you worry about something, I want you to wait until you get to the thing that you're worried about and then get to that realization that, oh, I worried about it and something totally different happened. And then I want you to go back and realize that there was some emotional currency that you expended over that false narrative. And over time, there's a true cost to that. So make yourself conscious enough to say and make a habit of it. Was that worth my energy? Was me worrying about this thing that never occurred worth my energy? Could I have taken that energy and I'm gonna call it spent it somewhere else? That question alone changes how you lead yourself and others. When we look at self-mastery, it's real life. And in real life, we are connected to other people. And the example that I give is that other people's energy is real. We all have this energy field around us. I call it a vibe. And you felt it before. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But when you're around other people, you'll go into a room and just have a simple conversation with someone, and you don't realize it, but they're giving you a pen and they're reaching out their hand to give it to you. And this pen, all right, let's just say this is their negative energy, their negative thought, their negative vibe. They're having a simple discussion with you and they're handing it to you. Well, that's people's energetic negativity. The question is, do you have to take it? I have a choice whether I grab the pen and take it from you, or if I just let you sit there and hold it. And that's one of the things that consciously we have to be aware of. I'll tell you a very short story. When I was working years ago at another company, and I had a friend or colleague that I talked to almost every day. She was out of town. I was in one town, she was in one town, but we were very close. And most of you know me, I'm a positive person. I really don't like being negative. It's just not a good feeling for me. And I remember one day being on the phone with her, and I hung up the phone to go, I guess, to the bathroom or whatever. And I'm walking down the hall, and it hit me. I'm like, there was this negative energy on me. It's like I don't know if I was mad or angry or frustrated, but that was that negative catabolic energy. Just I'm engulfed in it at this point. I took about 10 steps from my desk and I realized what I was feeling. And I went, wait a minute. What is this? Why am I feeling this? I don't remember having an argument with anybody. I didn't get in a fight with anybody. What's happening here? And then it hit me. I just hung up the phone with a teammate that handed me her pen, and I grabbed it and I consumed it. And I sat there with her pen. Had absolutely nothing to do with me. Nothing she said impacted me in any way. Nothing, maybe so, but a little bit because it was around work. But it was not my battle. It was not my energy, and it was not where I wanted to be. So I immediately reset after I was aware, because it's about the awareness. I immediately reset and went, okay, let me put that down, because this is not my pen. This is some people's energetic negativity. This is not mine. Let me put this down. And I became aware. So fast forward, what I started doing was, again, talk to my teammate every day. And I started noticing that there were just little subtle comments that would be made to take us down a conversation or take us down a little rabbit hole that would have led to me taking the pen again. But what I did, because I was aware, I did not I was not in the amen corner. I did not, I kind of changed perspective. I kind of, when they said something negative, I said, yeah, that's an option, but maybe it's blah, blah, blah. And because I was no longer in the amen corner, the conversations shifted. Some of them were a lot shorter than normal, and they were more positive, and I got less calls. So what does that tell you? What that tell you is that most people that are negative want amen corners. Most people that are negative, they want people to align with them. So be careful about who you're around. Be careful about, this is a leaker, right? Be careful about what conversations you're having, because even me, as positive as I am, and I've always been this way, I'm gonna call it fell for the okie doke, and I grabbed somebody else's pen. So that example just shows you that stress spreads, frustration spreads, anxiety spreads, depending on who you're around. So be careful also about who you're around. True leadership means recognizing just because energy is offered doesn't mean you have to accept it. Just because I offer you my pen, my people's negative energy, you don't have to accept it. In meetings, with customers, at home, you have to reset. You have to be aware of what's happening around you. When things happen to us, we tend to kind of stay in that place. And I use this as an example. A boxer is boxing, right? They're in the ring and they get hit. Well, most of us, when we get hit, oh my gosh, we're going to play that hit over and over in our head, and we're going to be mad about it. And it's, this happened and this happened, and why did it happen to me? And da 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 and da da da. Well, the boxing match is still going on. I really can't focus on that one hit. I need to be focusing on, a defensive move and where I'm going. So in life, be prepared. You're going to get hit, but don't focus on the punch that you receive. You focus on your life strategy and how you're going to move forward. The match of life does not stop. The match of life does not require us to replay it over and over again. You defend, you reset, and you keep moving. So let's apply that in our everyday life. Leadership works the same way. What you don't release, you carry forward. Letting go isn't avoidance, it's actually self-mastery. There's certain things that you can do something about, and there's certain things that you can't. And you have to accept the things that you can't change the things that you can, and really be in a position where you know the difference. That's the creed of the AA program. So switching gears just slightly, one of the things that impacts your energy, your mindset, and your thinking is your perspective and having the ability and the discipline to reset. I may have shared with you in our last podcast that stress actually narrows your perspective. So when you're making decisions, you are making decisions, and if you have blinders on under stress, this is really all you can see. When you reset and come back to your normal default mode or your normal default vibrational frequency, your perspective is widened and you can make a better decision because the blinders have been removed, and you can make a decision based on the entire room versus just that little small part. When you're overwhelmed, it's like wearing the blinders. You see one version of the story and assume it's true. And in that version, it's probably true based on what you're seeing. But when you take it off, the mathematical equation changes. So the synergy reset widens your lens. The discipline is recognizing when you're off center and choosing to reset instead of sulking, instead of venting or replaying that story over and over and over in your head. A reset doesn't mean disengaging. It means re-engaging from a place of clarity, not taking that step, not reacting, but taking time, taking that deep breath, removing yourself from the situation to give you time to make the best decision and response that you can for you. I want to make sure that we're giving you the right tools, the right mindset, the right, and I don't even call it right. I'm just going to say useful tools to help you move your life in the direction in which you would have it to go. When we are living, I'm going to call it blindly or unconsciously, we just go through the motions. We just making life is happening to us. That's the mindset. Where what I'm here to share with you is that when you are able to take ownership of your energy, life begins to happen for you on your behalf. Things are going to happen because where the mind goes, the energy flows, right? Your thoughts create emotions, and emotions put you in a state to take certain actions. That's what we call the T. So making sure that you're owning that puts you in a much better position to live the best life that you can. And that's what we want to do over this holiday season and going into 2026 of self mastery. So, as we close, I want you to remember this. Self mastery isn't about controlling every single moment of your life. It's about recognizing when you're off center and choosing to reset before you react. The synergy reset is a practice, one you can return to throughout your day, especially when leadership feels heavy or decisions feel urgent. If this episode resonated with you, I invite you to continue this work inside the Centerverse, our community designed for leaders, entrepreneurs, and individuals committed to clarity, growth, and intentional leadership. If this conversation added value, please subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who could use a reset right now. Because the energy you carry enters the room before you do, and you are responsible for the energy that you bring. I thank you for joining me today. I thank you for being a part of this energy movement, of us being able to take ownership for and not be victim of our circumstances and not be victim to what's happening in our community right now. I want us to go into the holiday season with a clear mind, clear intentions of how we can take ownership for what we do. Giving yourself a break from the negative news, the oversaturation of social media, giving yourself time to practice and rehearse some of these things that we have talked about. The 3 takeaways: self mastery is the ability to reset before reacting, especially when you're under pressure. Knowing that stress is physiological, not personal. And when you regulate your nervous system, clarity returns. And watching those energy leaks, not time, or what exhausts leaders most. So again, I thank you for being part of our Cineverse community. Thank you for participating in our Cine Leadership podcast. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Wishing you all a wonderful, blessed, and happy holiday season.